All right, then, everybody in podcast land out there, welcome to another Tank Nation podcast. So, this is where we bring the outside in. And our brother Sean Oliver, ex-resident here on the Pulaski unit, was actually our pastor in our Protestant programs here for many years, and one of our one building SSI elites that has got out. And Mr. David Earl Green and Sean Oliver got together in a Zoom call, and we're going to get that going in here in the studio in just a second once we get them situated and connected. Mr. David Earl Green, one of the brothers that he is married to a city of Houston HR coordinator right now, and they tap the pool of workers coming out of prison and consider us to be some of the greatest workers that they have. So hope you enjoy this. Sean, take it away. See, you got David Earl here today. Cool stuff. Let's see what he's got to say.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. How you doing tonight, David Earl Green?
Oh man, I'm faring pretty well, Mr. Sean Oliver.
Man, I've been looking forward to this interview because this show is about trying to help people prepare for release. But back in the day, especially on the terror unit, I mean, how many people were making parole? Let's go back to the late 90s, early 2000s. Out of 100 people, how many made parole that you think?
I would say at least 3, maybe 4, if that.
Okay, we're gonna say 5 because somebody probably discharged from closed custody and we didn't know it. But in that climate, I don't think that you knew that you would actually make your first parole after serving 20 years. Am I right or wrong?
So true, so true.
So can you just take us through your growth in preparation for parole, knowing that our intent in allowing the men and women to hear this interview is to hopefully give them some tools that will prepare them for release. But at the same time, everybody just didn't do right the whole time and then suddenly get out. So I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. And I'm one that just wasn't just doing right from the beginning. But
Yeah, because you came from that little small town. Where you from again?
I'm from that small big town called Houston, Texas.
Oh, okay. Keep going.
Yeah, but as for me, it took a lot of just observation for me. I share with everybody, let everybody know, like my first 10 years, I was pretty much doing time the way I wanted to do time. But as you start getting older and start seeing people around you gradually leaving, you're like, man, it's getting close to my date. Because when you have to do 20 flat just to come up for parole, you really don't think about parole in your beginning years. You're thinking about just surviving. You're thinking about adapting. You're thinking about getting along, trying to make time easy. But for me, as time started winding down around my 10th year, I thought about like, man, I need to start doing something different because guys are getting set off, guys are discharging, guys are doing 85% of their time. And I'm like, man, what can I do different? So it really all started when I started hanging around with certain guys that was in the different programs in the church. So one guy was like, man, let's go to Celebrate Recovery. Man, that look good for parole. Let's go to Quest Authentic Manhood. That look good for parole. Let's go to Kairos. That look good on parole. And the main thing for me was going home and not knowing that taking a lot of those classes in the chapel was preparing me for the man and for life out here. And so as I started getting into a lot of those classes, a lot of things started awakening for me for spiritually and mentally, because the way I was seeing things, the way I perceived things was quite different from a man of God, and not saying that living as a man of God is always going to be roses. I'm not going to tell you that. There are challenges, there are trials, there are a few hardships. Trying to do the right thing, want to do the right thing, when the system is against you and everybody in the system is doing whatever. Because being a man of God or being a man of ethics, being a man of substance is frowned upon a lot amongst your peers in prison. But for me though, I just took it in stride. I took it in stride, man. And as I started thinking about family members, when I started thinking about how selfish I was being as far as just doing time, doing the way I want to do time and not thinking about them, it gave me an eye opener. So basically, my first 10 years was just wilding out. But those latter 10 years, man, I just started grooming myself for my exodus because, like I was saying, I was taking all those classes in the chaplain office. And all they kept talking about was being a man of integrity, being a godly man, being a man prepared for the future. So that was really my breaking in, my breakthrough. The last 10 years of just getting involved in the church, getting involved in classes, sharing with a lot of the brothers, talking to a lot of brothers that was in the church. And man, I had to really just look at self and do a bunch of self-examining because you ask the hard questions. Are you really fit for society? Are you ready to go back out there? You know, them the questions you don't want to really ask yourself when you start doing the self-examining. Like, man, do your family want you out there the way you would when you came in, or are you going to go out there and show them something different? So, but for me, I had a strong support with family and friends, but I wanted to show them that prison didn't beat me down. Prison didn't take me under. Prison was just another situation in life that I've learned from and grown from. Because I tell everybody that I come in contact with out here, prison basically matured me because I went in with this at 21 years old, 22 years old with this childish mentality. And as I started doing my 20s, all my 30s in prison, then when I turned
right there, when you say a childish mentality, Grant, break that down because we want to resonate with the individuals listening, not out of trying, but just really hearing something about you that a dude or a female will be like, okay, I understand that. Can you give me 2 examples of that childish mentality?
One of those childish mentalities was that if it wasn't about me, it wasn't about nobody else. It was more of being selfish as that little spoiled brat. I can honestly say I was spoiled growing up. So being a spoiled individual was basically being a child, just being like, man, hey man, if you don't benefit me, if it don't help me, then I ain't messing with you. If it wasn't about me, if it wasn't about something that I wanted to do, I really didn't give anybody the benefit of a chance because I was very selfish. Being the only child, you know, you grew up being me. But as I've learned to be around others and start learning others, start communicating with others, I feel that, man, I understood that prison was almost like a little community. So a lot of things that I do could affect the masses and vice versa. So with that being said, a lot of my childish thinking about, man, forget, man, because especially, prime example, we know we on lockdown. You know if you get caught in the shower or get caught in the day room, you know if it's the week 1, day 1. You know what I'm saying? I make this extreme though, but
That's
one
right.
individual make it week 1. But I'm being honest with you, you know, because I had to not think about me no more. Because, man, when it affects the whole, man, that's a lot of weight on you. And you got to start thinking about that. And so with that being going forward, thinking about the whole, I had to think about my family. Because I thought about the family of guys that I surrounded myself with in incarceration. So with that childish mentality of me, that was one of the examples of being having a childish mentality. Not thinking about others, but only about self. Another example of a childish mentality is mainly just the games, man. The games that you play with those out there in the world, your family members, your friends, those that actually have your best interest in heart, and you really trying to manipulate sometimes, and knowing that your books is good, but you want more. They greedy. You know what I'm saying? For me, if you say I'm a big guy, so you know that greed kind of sets in. You know, and that's another childish mentality. You know what I'm saying? Not thinking about what others have to do out there in the world, what hardship that your people have out there, but you want to play them games saying, I need this, I want this, where they doing this to me, they doing that to me. Man, come down here, man. I need you to talk to the warden, knowing that I was bringing a lot of stuff on myself, but I just want them to come down here so I get a visit to make it seem like, hey, I need y'all down here.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they get down here, oh, man, they got resolved. Man, nice seeing y'all. What's up? So that's what some of the things I'm talking about, having that childish mentality.
Thank you. Keep going, bro.
So as time progressed, and I started getting more enrooted in the classes that I was taking while I was incarcerated, I started finding myself. I started learning myself. I started learning more of what a man is and how a man interacts with other men and more of not just being that lone island of just taking and taking, because I had a roommate, a cellie. I worked at a commissary. So I was privy to a lot of things that was out of stock. But I had it for myself, you know what I'm saying? And my locker had it. So it just so happened that there was a guy on the wing who wanted to buy summer sausage from me. Summer sausage season over with. I worked in commissary, and somebody must have told this individual that I was sitting on a case of summer sausage.
Sure. Let me interrupt to tell a short story about them summer sausages. Man, I'm so crazy. I worked in one building, so I was the boot black green. And so Kelly and them, who were the officer's barber, I said, man, I'm going down there and get in line so I can get them summer sausages. I already got the major to sign. Now, mind you, when the major came through the door at 5, 7 in the morning, I got the signature. So boom, I go down there. I'm in line, man. I get my summer sausage, you understand? I come on back to work. They say, man, oh, man, you wrong, man. You supposed to look out for us. Now, this is the deranged thinking. Even in the midst of having God, and they say, man, you being selfish. So I say, all right, man, give me your list, man. I'm going to walk down there and get the major to sign it. They run a UCC, Green. They run a UCC. A dude step out the UCC room. I step into the room, push the door up. And the major's like, what's going on, Oliver? I said, Major, I need you to sign them 2 commissary lists right there. Say, that man, and it had to be God. It had to be his respect for God in me. That man pushed that seat back. Say, Oliver, I'm going to get with you later. Man, and when I walked out the door, it's like I snapped back to reality and I said, man, I just went in UCC to ask a man for his signature. But I was listening to my coworkers wanting to make something happen for them because they told me I was selfish. But I just want to share that to say, man, them summer sausages will get you in a wreck. Come on.
So as time progressed, man, the guy that asked to buy a couple of summer sausages, I said, man, I ain't got none. I ain't got nothing for you. Just like that, I ain't got nothing for you. Now, how is it the next day I get moved to the same cell with this young man?
Ooh.
I am unpacking. I got a commissary bag full of sausage, so I'm probably sitting on about 30, 40 summer sausage. And he looking at me. He looked at me, he said, Big Green, man, you lied to me like that?
Yes.
I said, man, I did that, bro. I apologize. I said, man, I'm going to make us a spread right now, man. It's going to be meaty. I'm going to put 2 summer sausages in that boy. And if you want to, I'll put 3 in that boy. But that mentality of greed, where you don't want to share, that's what I was getting at, man. And it took time for the Holy Spirit to work in me, man, to stop being so selfish. And once I started letting the Holy Spirit work in me, man, I started seeing other areas in my life that needed work on. You know, the way I communicated with people, the way I talked to people, the way I addressed individuals. You know, so that was the beginning stage of me humbling myself and preparing for my exodus to the free world. And man, when I tell you those latter 10 years of incarceration was one of the most fulfilling for me, because I started seeing things and opportunities opening up for me. I started seeing how how the favor of the Lord was on me when I just started being obedient, started obeying. And the more favor, you know, say, you know, you're gonna get more latch ons because I gotta sit with that being said. That was the brother, man, on the ministry team with us. Isaac, you know, brother Isaac Hafford. He said, Big Green, I'm going to chow with you. Because every time we go on that chow hall, boy, they be piling your tray up. I'm rolling with you because I want some of that overflow to flow over on my tray.
Yeah.
Because everybody knew me as the commissary guy, the one building guy, or the infirmary guy. So I was a president on the unit. So like people want a favor. Man, we went in there, man. I don't know if a chicken patty day or a hot leg day, but they put 2 on my plate. I said, man, hook my boy up too. He said, that's what I'm talking about, that overflow.
Let me ask you this, Grant. When had you become a Christian, Grant?
Be honest with you, I was raised in church. I went to church as a youngster, you know, believe I was baptized and all that there. But I want to say when I knew for myself,
yes,
it was 1998. I was on the Gaza unit. I was on Gaza East, Gaza West over there. I moved to Gaza East. I was on Gaza East. And, you know, I had went to an evening service, not knowing there was an all-speaking Spanish service. Man, I sat in that service and, you know, just sat there listening to the pastor, listen to him give the word. And it came to where they was doing, you know, the call to the altar. And the brother was speaking and talking and something just welled up in me and tears started rolling down my eyes. Mind you, I don't speak Spanish. But I knew right then and there that the Holy Spirit was speaking, and my tears of joy and everything that was just festering inside of me had me just to get up, man, and rededicate my life to Christ at a Spanish speaking service. So when I
watch this. What year did you get to Terrell or Polunsky?
I got there in 2001 or 2002.
2001. So Terrell, and then it changed into Polunsky.
Turned to Polunsky, yes.
The reason that I want to bring that out, a lot of times people will look at Christians who are incarcerated and they'll either see a lot of people professing Christ who behind closed doors or in different bunks or other things or doing other things. So they say, oh man, Christians ain't nothing but hypocrites. Then you have some other Christians to where people don't see them do wrong, but it's like they don't associate with anybody. And then you've got what you just said, what I've stated in my testimony, and what a lot of guys who I've known, at least on the Terrell Polunsky unit, man, our Christianity was a progression. So when we're sitting up talking about the things we used to do, is not to glorify it, it's to say, listen, we grew out of that. And that's one thing that keeps us humble when we help people who are just like we were. And that's just a thought to put out there that, bro, this Christian walk, I'm not saying that God can't deliver you from 10 things all at once, but I'm also saying in the midst of your growth, if God is dealing with you one sin at a time, don't get discouraged. Know that as long as you obey God one step at a time, you can't miss what God has for you. So come on, jump back into that, bro. You were starting to make that change them last 2 years.
Yeah, so you know, pardon me there, but those last 2 years, man, it got to the point where I started, man, and just getting into the ministry deep and just start honing in on the gifts that God had blessed me with. Start honing in on a lot of the talent that God has blessed me with. And when I tell you, it was so to the point where, man, I didn't want to do nothing but just, man, be right by the Lord, do the right thing. Because as you start seeing brothers going home during the latter year, when I say around the 2011s and 12s, we start seeing the different individuals going home, and you start like, man, how's he making parole? the parole for us on Pulaski Jail unit was far through. So you start asking the question, man, what he doing to go home? Man, hold up. Man, he was a bad actor. What he do?
Mm-hmm.
Then you start seeing guys start making first paroles. Then you start seeing brothers that had 2 life sentences make parole. Then you're like, hold up, man. Say, and then it wasn't just, when I tell you, it wasn't just the church body. It was other individuals, but they was associated. A lot of them that you talk to, they believe. And that's the thing I want to tell you, man. A lot of guys that wasn't professing Christ, they was believers. A lot of them believe. But man, I started looking at guys start talking about Laura Redmond at the time. And people started like, man, you got to get this parole officer. You got to get this parole officer. But as it dwindled down, man, I quit trying to put my faith in man. That's one of the things that I actually started doing is started trusting and believing in God on a lot of things, in a lot of places in my life. And I was willing to spend the $2,000 to $3,000 for a parole lawyer. But when I saw one of the guys that was on the drummer team with me make his own parole package and presented it and made his first parole, I was like, man, let me see your parole package. He said, man, I'll share it with you. I'll show you what I did. But you know, that day never came. Okay. But it's to say that day never came. But I realized what God had for him was for him, and what God got for me is for me. So I couldn't pattern myself off what the next man had did. I had to make myself, you know what I'm saying, presentable before the parole board and let God go before me. And so as it started dwindling down my last 2 years of incarceration, man, I just started, man, being more of a servant. I started being more available to others, because when you available to others, God will see fit to use you in the area he needs to use you in. And man, I have to say, the many nights that I cried out to God, wondering why such and such going home, when it's my turn, when it's going to be my turn, how you let him go home, how you let him go home. Lord, you got to do it for me too. And that's one thing I did, man. I stayed on my knees and honestly let God know, hey, Lord, you did it for him. I know you'll do it for me. I'm standing on the testimonies of others, Father. I see what you have done in my life. And when that day up came to see parole, I was nervous. I was very nervous. But I went in there with confidence and assurance that it was in God's hand. And, you know, it was I still remember that parole interview right now with Garcia. He read over everything and looked at me. He said, I'm reading your case right now. And, you know, they ask you questions that I already had an answer to. They want to see if you're going to fabricate some things. They're going to see if you going to lie to them. But I was straight up with the parole commissioner. And he said, man, I'm looking at your record. You have never been in trouble. This is your first time in trouble. I said, well, I had a few traffic tickets.
Yeah.
And he said, traffic tickets? I said, yeah. He said, no. He said, man, this is your first time being in serious trouble. He said, you know what? Don't mess your opportunity up. Don't mess up the opportunity when you go home. I said, huh? He said, don't mess up that opportunity, because you ever come back, you might not get this opportunity again. And man, I was so elated when he told me that. But when I tell you, it was more of just me being obedient to the things of God than not being obedient to the things of man. That would really, really, really help me and prepare me for my exodus. Because, man, I learned one of my biggest hangups and one of the biggest things that kept holding me back was being selfish, being stingy, being all about me. That was one of the things that I must say that I had to give up self for others. You know, and I tell whoever listening, please, please, please don't make it all about you. Because God didn't make it all about him. He did it for the whole mass. He did it for the world. His sins, being on that cross, he died for us all. And what better way to show our gratitude than be the example of available to others, man. And that's what I started doing. I just let myself be. Even out here, as I speak today, when brothers come home, they'll call. I try to see what resources they need, to see what can I do to help them out. If I have somewhere to send them a way to help them progress in their reentry, I do that because I understand that it's not all about me. The more and more I become a servant, the more and more I help others, the more and more God is blessing me, and that is blessing others. And it keep going on and on. The blessing keep going on and on and on. And man, I thank you, Sean, for giving me the opportunity to speak, to let others know that, man, please take the time that you have incarceration to learn self, to get to know the Lord, to get closer to the Lord. And man, I'm a living testimony. It works. It works. It helps.
Appreciate you. We're going to do a rapid fire. We got a few minutes. So you got 2 minutes or less to answer each of these. I'm going to give you a scenario and you speak from the scenario that you have.
Okay.
And so you are right now in the chain cage waiting to leave Polunsky. You made parole. I am a young man and I walk up to the cage and I say, man, what's up? What's up? What's happening on this unit, bro? What can you tell me, man? I got 15 flat to do. I got to do 15 flat before I come up. What can you tell me to help me do this 15 before you go out the door?
Man, I'm telling you right now, bro, hook up with the brothers in the church, man. I'm going to let you know right now, man, we have a strong community of believers that are helping each other, man. You don't have to do this time by yourself. And I'm going to let you know right now, hey, it may look like you got to do it by yourself. It may look like you're alone, but you're not alone. There are plenty of men on this unit that's willing to be an assistant. There are plenty of men on this unit that's willing to help you, bro. Hey, I know for a fact that the church helped me. So don't give up on the church and hey, let the church use you.
Right. I just want to make a sidebar on that note. I'm out of character now. I'm Oliver again. There are always people of God wherever you at. But now that might look different. Meaning I remember when I was on Goree, and a lawman just came and opened up the door. And he said, youngster, he said, man, you going to go down there and everything going to be all right. And he closed the door. And the reason he did that, when I came up out of the classification thing, they were like, man, where you going? Where you going? I say, Ferguson. They say, oh, all of them was moaning. I said, bro, what's going on with that? And they said, man, that ain't what's happening. And he had heard that. And I said, when he told me that, although I didn't know what was going on, I knew, even though I couldn't hear God then, because I had so much sin in my life, I couldn't hear good. I knew that God was telling me something. So I'm going back in character now. I'm a man in my 50s. Look out, big man. I just need you to lace me up on what's happening, man. I got 2 years to do. What's the best way to do it? And I need you to understand, I don't come from a unit. I didn't heard about y'all Christians over here. I'm just trying to ask you, what's the best way I can make it on a unit where I'm at age 50 and I only got 2 years to do? What's your advice to me?
Man, hey, that's simple. Because hey, if I know you ain't trying to hear about the Lord or the Christian thing, man, just mind to yourself. Hey, keep your nose out of other folks' business. Hey, hey, and that's me on a realist standpoint, because I know I have to meet a man where they at. You know, just mind your own. Hey, keep your nose clean. Say you good here. I say, because to be honest with you, the administration ain't gonna mess with you if you're quiet. So hey, just stay low key, bro. Do them 2 years and go home. Be with your family and your grandkids. And that's me got to give it to me, the person where they at, because I understand that I have to be all things to all people. You know, because I know where once I come from, and I know the mentality that I once had. And if I recognize that, I know how to talk to you accordingly, how to deal with you accordingly. You ain't trying to hit a Christian thing. You just want to do these 2 years. Say, man, just stay lay low, do your time, don't cause no ruckus. You'll be home before you know it.
That's right. Man, I appreciate you again, Green. And in closing, it's an honor, bro. Even the fact that, on a closing note, there are different individuals getting out all over the state of Texas who they've got good jobs. But what I'm also adding with that, they have good jobs, so they've been able to help others get jobs. So also know, bro, some of those relationships, or if I'm speaking to a female right now, some of the relationships that you develop in prison, you never know who's watching you. You never know who might be an influence for what's coming next in your life beyond those bars. And my final remark, because I always tie it in, because so many times when I was doing all that time, people would always speak about going home right away. Well, that's good. But a lot of us had time to do, and we did time. And so if there's somebody who's serving a lot of time, or you have a lot of time ahead of you, or you have life without parole, know that the principles that you're hearing on this show, they're not just good for the free world, they're good for the jobs, the vocations, the relationships that you have right where you're at, because I'm telling you, that is a community you belong to. Whatever unit you're on, that is a community. And in a community, you have all types of neighbors. And I leave you with this question. What type of neighbor are you? Have a good night, bro.
All right. Bless you, bro.
Tank Nation Conversations, promoting change through change.
I'm Brian Collier, Executive Director of Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
Blakinger.
Dennis Martinez. I'm a world and U.S. skateboard champion.
Hello, my name is Kevin Kempf, and I'm the Executive Director of the Correctional Leaders Association, and it's an honor.
Gary Moore.
Yeah, my name is Hedemias Cooper.
Hello, I'm Michael Dutra.
And this is Sharon Dutra.
I'm David Gorin. I'm a radio producer for the BBC.
I'm Maria Malgaronis.
My purpose is to look out at each and every man in this room and see that there's hope for everybody in here.
When I came to death row, all I knew was that I came here to die, but little did I know, I came here to live.